I told you this guy's a genius.
Self-proclaimed, maybe.
Well, as long as it works for him.
Exactly my point.
Awesome.
Right, 30 minutes, roughly. That means 30 minutes of, just let's see how long it's gonna take me to walk home. That's 19% of battery left. I have a full backpack again. It's just too much to carry. It annoys me. Too many things, too many people give me stuff. Sometimes I just take what I need. And then when I was driving it, right, I was with a friend, asked for a favor, he denied it, but he took my energy. I'm just saying, I feel good, I go to a friend. That friend seems to be at some kind of dead end, and we have a conversation, but he denies me a favor. All right, and then I go back to, because he gave me access to a place that belongs to him, or that was given to him, or whatever. And I still had my backpack there, and I went there. I first went there to clean up, actually. See how the state is, and then I looked in one of the corners, and there was it looked like trash. It was just a bit of weed in an old cigarette tobacco pouch, and I just thought, I mean, nobody knows it's there, right? Who's gonna miss it? Am I a crook now? Am I a criminal? Well, or do I just know how to, am I an opportunist, right? If I see an opportunity, I can seize the opportunity, or I can let it pass. There are opportunities that I'm trying to seize, but I'm being denied that. I've just been informed that, I asked for a job at the Boulder Hall. I thought maybe they just need some more horsepower, and now they say they're fine. All right, so I'll go back to my own business, and I'll produce, and I'll produce, and I'll produce. And if that's not hell, then what is? I mean, the heaven about my hell is that nobody can say what I'm supposed to do, right? That's the heaven about my hell. I can just, right? I can just hold this camera and I can just talk without a script, without anything. I can just talk. I can make sense, I can make nonsense. And all sense is nonsense, depending on how you see it. Science to me is complete nonsense. That's the point that I'm stressing all the time, because nobody knows what's going on, and science does a lot of bad shit because they act like they know what's going on. Yeah, still making the air toxic, right? And now I'm starting to feel the weight of the backpack. Heavy weight. Heavy emotional weight. And that's what you always have to consider. What are you carrying? if there's hundreds of people that want to hate you, and you manage to love what you do anyway, although hundreds of people send you their hate, and you manage to keep going and to push through, well, then you know what transformation is. Then you know what a guru does. A guru is not just a guy who's enlightened and who's holy, no. A guru is the guy in the room that can absorb all the hatred because he's been emptied. He's been emptied by life. And because he has been emptied, he can sit in the room and become a vessel. And then all the hatred from all the people, it's basically energy, he just channels it. But it's not that he really chooses to do this. He realizes, well, that's what I'm here to do. And it's not even that he realizes that's what I'm here to do, it's just that it's happening to him. And all the guru has to do is simply disassociate himself from the me. So instead of saying, it's happening to me, because if you're saying, wow, it's happening to me, right? I just stepped into something sharp and I felt a sting. Well, it's happening to me, well, or it's just happening. It's just happening, all right. And somehow, I'm observing this guy, Christopher, right? Spiritual advice from a barbarian, lunatic, whatnot. And he's really struggling through life. And I can really distance myself from this. And sometimes I do this, right? Sometimes I'm so distant, I'm so far away, I'm not even here anymore. Right? Believe it or not, there's a reason I'm not really fit for the jobs that you think are so important. Because these are not the jobs that keep this game running. What keeps this game running, you want to know? It's nature, my friend. Nature keeps this show running. We just take from nature, because everything we have, everything we use comes from nature. So, what makes science so great, right? It's like, is the pimp great or is the prostitute great? I mean, the pimp is just using the beauty of the prostitute and makes money with it. And in that sense, science is the pimp and nature is the prostitute. And that makes sense because science is like the male, I'm gonna dominate you. Yeah? I'm gonna dominate you. You have to obey me. That's science. And then nature is like, but I want to be free. And then, nature looks for an outlet. Nature is crying for help. And who is there to hear her? Well, I am. I hear nature in myself because I acknowledge the fact that I have a male, a masculine, and a feminine side. And I realize, well, I cannot be weak now because all of humanity is weak. Life has been shaken. It's out of balance. Weird shit is happening in the world. Really weird shit. And my feeling tells me, I want to do something about this. And the question is whether or not a pimp would be conscious. I mean, if he would know what I'm talking about, he couldn't do what he's doing. If you get what I mean, he couldn't do it. Because if you see a child, a woman, a young girl in the prostitute, not just the woman that's sexy and that you can put a penis into, but a living being, a young woman that wanted to be loved, that maybe has no father or was abused and is still looking for that love, and then she finds herself in the place and suddenly, she's being molested by one guy after another. Well, you have to be kind of distant for that. You have to be kind of disattached from your body to allow one man after another to penetrate inside of you. It's just the way it is. And now, how do you have to be a pimp? You know, how sick do you have to be, or how sad, in order to be a pimp? That's a very valid question. You know, alright, I can feel for anyone. I can understand why you would do it. I mean, what kind of perspective would you need to sell women to men, to disgusting, power-hungry assholes that use women? Or use women, you know, why is a woman in such a situation? Can we just lump it off on bad choices? You know, is this her destiny? Because if spirituality is all about destiny, well, then it's her destiny, right? And then, you know, at the end of the road, she can say, well, it had to happen this way so that I could feel really bad about myself, right? So that I could acknowledge, you know, maybe there's a point to it. I mean, if the prostitute would do it because she realizes that men are troubled these days and that men need women to love them, well, if the woman manages to love every man that wants to sleep with her, but I would suggest it's basically impossible. I mean, you can love one man, and then maybe you manage the next one. Well, and after, you know, it's gonna get worse. Third, fourth, fifth, you know, you're gonna lose track. 25, 30, are you gonna love them all? Even the guy that, like, chokes you until you feel like, you know, you're not gonna breathe anymore? How far are you gonna allow these things to happen to you until you say, I think I should stop, you know? Because that's the same thing with psychedelics. I mean, who says you have to continue smoking cannabis or smoking tobacco or drinking alcohol? Who says you have to continue? And yet, there's something really weird going on in myself. Because if I want to make art, if I want to continue, if I want to see clearly, I sometimes have to drink the beer. And I don't understand it. Sometimes I feel like I have to drink the beer in order to continue. And that makes no sense. How does that make sense again? Well, it's my feeling that's guiding me, and I'm still managing to create all of this content. And I realize quite often, just like when I found that pouch of tobacco and there was weed inside and a bit of tobacco. And I took it home, said nothing. I kept my mouth shut until now. And then I smoked it. And when I smoked it, I mixed a bit of sage into it. Suddenly I had 12 new images that I just drew with pencil on paper. Well, and then I have to put it on the computer and do the rest with it. You know, just my general routine. Why did I have to find a pouch with tobacco and weed in it? You know, just like the chance that somebody would just leave it there is already very low. But I had the feeling, I think that was left for me. And then you say, okay, does that make sense? No, I don't know who it is from. All right, so, you know, I'll just ended up smoking it. You know, that makes no sense. And what makes even less sense is that suddenly I had 12 new drawings, 12 new sketches. Why? Why did I have to do this? So what do you want to tell me about spirituality? I mean, I had a feeling to go to the friend, go first to the hall and then do this stuff, and you know, nobody can really tell me what I'm supposed to do. And all anybody tells me is just bullshit. I mean, if somebody is trying to tell me what I'm supposed to do, I often realize it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. You know, they don't know what they're talking about. You know, they're trying to tell me what I'm supposed to do, while they have never done what I'm trying to do. So who's talking? You know, it's ignorance that's talking to me. And ignorance is talking to me with a million different faces. You know, And I just look at these ignorant faces and I think, who the fuck are you even talking to? Who do you think you're talking to? Sometimes I meet people and I have the feeling, I think they think that they're talking to a child or something. But I know what I'm doing. I mean, in terms of trust, I just keep going. I just keep producing. You know, you think maybe, oh yeah, look at him. You know, look at all the stuff that he's creating. You know, he must really enjoy this. Yeah. All right. You make one video, you think, wow, nice. You make 100 videos, you think, when does this stop? Well, never. Because that's what you're here for. Flood the world with art to counterbalance this AI shit. It's not my only job, but it's part of it. You know, it's just, AI is so unconscious. It's disgusting. You know, it's like, do you want to give everything to machines now? Do you want to give everything to machines now? Right? But if you are like me and you talk about these things, you know, everybody acts like, well, I think this guy is trouble. You know, he's trying to make sense. You know, he's onto something. You know, that's like truth. We can't have that. People have to stay ignorant. You know, let's see how he's gonna do it. You know, if he's gonna be too forceful, we're just gonna ban him. All right, so you have to learn to be a bit less forceful. You know, just say it like you don't really care. I mean, well, I don't really care, right? You know, don't talk about politics. Why? Well, it's so obvious. I mean, you don't have to talk about politics. Why do you think you have to talk about politics? It's so obvious already. Because truth is that way. You know, I don't have to tell you what's the truth, right? I don't have to tell you who's corrupt. Because that's what you can find out for yourself. You know, if I have to tell you who's corrupt and that, you know, sometimes, right, maybe the news aren't as accurate as you think they are. Well, why do I have to tell you this? Because it's already so obvious. I mean, it's storytelling. By who? Well, I don't know. Who are you talking about? Right? It's like you're trying to reach out for something. You're trying to reach out for something, but you're just a mouse. And you're trying to play with, like, lions. So unless you can transform yourself into a lion or into a shark, I mean, there's not much to say about this shit. You know, it's just the way it is. You know, things are happening on a large scale. And I'm just one guy. I mean, I can pick up so many things. You know, I can listen to all kinds of messages, try to tell, you know, what my feeling is telling. And all I can say is that I'm being followed by fear and I'm being followed by anger. And my job is to learn how to be cool with it. You know, not to be as ignorant as the rest. Not to be, not to just not give a shit. But to simply say, you know, it's all right. You know, that's how people say, you know, it's all perfect. Yeah, that's the hardest perspective of all. Because to me, it's not all perfect. There's shit happening. And I don't like this. I don't like child abuse, but it's happening. You know, am I the guy that's gonna stop this? How am I gonna stop child abuse? I'm just one guy. How am I going to stop child abuse? Well, first of all, I have to stop abusing my own inner child. I have to stop abusing my own inner child. But what abuses my own inner child? Well, I don't know. What abuses my own inner child? I don't know. What abuses my own inner child? Well, spending time with people that are very vicious and that are very, very arrogant. You know, people that are just angry about everything. Right, so what heals your inner child is basically what can help other children. Because if you know how to heal yourself and you learn to be more peaceful, then you can walk through life and through this weird society and you can create harmony in your surroundings. So you go back into your family after you've been awakened and you learned how to channel energy and how to be more peaceful, and then you go back into life where you came from, and then you walk around and you're just trying to harmonize as much as you can. You know, that's all you can do. You can't do anything else. You can't do anything else. Which is why that's the challenge, to try to be as harmonic as you can be. To be as gentle as you can be with yourself, with the people in your surroundings. And that's very hard with all the hate that we all feel. Yeah, so you just learn to not, you know, yeah, there's people that are suffering in other countries. Yeah, well, let them worry about it. What are we gonna do about it? Didn't we not realize that it's not good to meddle with other countries? I mean, let them be. Let Africa be Africa. But yeah, I mean, we're making money with them, right? Yeah, that's a problem. So how can you stop that? Well, you stop buying products that come from there. You could stop drinking coffee, for instance. You know, you can do these things. You can stop smoking tobacco. You can just buy potatoes, right? You don't need electronics unless you're reproducing content. I mean, you could just live your life where you are. You don't need a car. You can get by without one. You know, you could band together and just create, I don't know, fabric from local. But yeah, nature is getting less. And the nature that remains, you know, is being controlled by large corporations that just overproduce food and stuff. It's kind of impossible. So, but there's still hope. I mean, I don't know how much nature is really left. I don't know how much nature is left. Right? How much nature is left? Well, I don't know how much nature is left. How much nature is left? I mean, here, if I, you know, like real nature, where I would say, yeah, that's nature, there's just nothing. I mean, you have forests, but these are all kind of cultural, economic forests. They are just for tree production. But there are, you know, places here also that have nature left. But this is also at least, you know, quite a forest-rich area. So this is not the standard German city or something. No, not at all. So how much nature is left, really? Well, they say it's getting less. But there's also people planting trees. But nobody really says how much, like how many trees are being planted. You know, how much nature, you know, in 20 years you can grow back a young forest. 20 years you can grow back a young forest. 20 years it took Professor John D. Louis to grow back an area that was formerly considered to be a desert. And he managed to grow it back into a, you know, an area with vegetation. But there are even people that don't want it. That don't want areas to have water. Because they want to control the water in that area. Like, right, people say Nestle does this. That they just buy, you know, underwater lakes. Or they just build dams. And then they just cut it off for the whole country or for whole, you know, so agriculture dies. And then you have big corporations that come in and that buy the land that is now dry. And then they start making, you know, these things are happening. But what can we do as individuals? Well, spirituality is about channeling energy, which is why the more conscious you become, the more conscious your surroundings will become. And that means if you sit at home and you really meditate, I mean, you don't just say you meditate, you really manage to just, what's meditation? It's just holding up consciousness. And when you do that, you can start changing an entire city. And the more people that do this, the more we can harmonize the hive. Because right now people are really sick with confusion. And of course, people want it. You know, there's people where you would say, yeah, they want it like this. But if you're confused, you don't recognize confusion. I mean, to you it's just normal. I mean, if you look at people like power-hungry, war-mongering people, you know, they don't think what they're doing is bad. Well, they may have second thoughts, they may feel bad about it. But, I mean, just think about the Avatar Aang, Sirius, the Fire Lord. He doesn't think he's helping anyone. I mean, well, he thinks he's helping everyone. But he also just wants to be, you know, at the end it's just about him. He didn't want to share. Fire Lord, whatever, Azulon. He didn't want to share his glory. I mean, he just wanted to show, you know, I'm better than you, right? You know, the Fire Nation is doing great. And now I just want to undermine the Earth Nation. And that's then probably how it all starts. So what does it mean? Well, you constantly have to test yourself. If you're in a position of power, you have to really test yourself. Now that's also the other problem. When you're in a position of power, you're gonna have a lot of advisors. And who's testing the advisors? Well, you are. Like, just think of the sword of Damocles. You know, it's like the king sits there and above his head is hanging a sword. And that's just making sure that, you know, if you make one bad choice after another, you know, at one point, you know, the sword's gonna come down at you. That's the whole point. So, you know, anyone who thinks, you know, I'm really doing great while just pushing around other people, life's always gonna come for you in one way or another. And I don't know if there's something like a cycle of rebirth. You know, I don't remember ever being here. Well, maybe I do, but I'm just gonna keep that to myself. Because what's it matter? It doesn't matter who I think I may have been.